Have you ever heard that gaining just 1 pound of muscle could burn an extra 50 to 100 calories just at rest? In other words, this claim is promising that building extra muscle will turn your body into a fat melting machine, even while you're just chilling on a couch. But is this accurate? Or is it one of those exaggerated myths that sounds too good to be true? Well, today we're going to dive into a showdown between muscle and fat, and we'll compare their metabolic activities, reveal how much muscle really boosts your metabolism, and the amount of calories that are really burned, and uncover why those sky-high numbers might be a bit misunderstood. It's definitely going to be an energetic one. I'm Jonathan Benyon with the Institute of Human Anatomy, and it's time to jump into this anatomical and physiological awesomeness. So let's start by taking a look at adipose tissue, or what most of us refer to as fat. If you take a look at this cadaver dissection, you can see this yellowish layer just underneath the skin. And this is referred to as subcutaneous fat. And subcutaneous just means below the skin. You also have fat that's deeper around the organs that you can see here, called visceral fat. And visceral just means pertaining to internal organs. And so both subcutaneous and visceral are great names to refer to the different locations of fat. Now, it's not likely going to be shocking to you that fat can sometimes get a bad rap, but fat is essential for energy storage, insulation, and even hormone production. And we go into all the functions of fat in a different video that I'll link at the end. But when it comes to metabolism, fat isn't exactly this calorie burning powerhouse. At rest, adipose tissue burns about 2 to 4.5 calories per pound of fat per day, which is not a lot of calories burned. But why is it so low? Well, fat cells, or adipocytes, are mostly storage units. They're packed with triglycerides, which is this large central droplet that occupies most of the cell. And they don't require much energy to maintain themselves. Their main job is holding on to energy for later, not constantly churning through it. Think of it this way. Fat is kind of like an energy storage savings account. It's there when you need it, but it's not actively spending calories on its own, except for that small 2 to 4.5 calories that you could kind of think of as your fat savings account fees. That is, if you are banking somewhere that doesn't give you a free savings account, but who would want to do that? The point is, fat is used to store energy, not to be a major burner of it. And just to give you some big picture numbers, if you have 20 pounds of body fat, that's only about 40 to 90 calories burned per day at rest from fatty tissue alone. That's not nothing, but definitely not setting your metabolism on fire. But what about muscle tissue? And with all this talk about metabolic activity and the amount of calories burned by fat versus muscle, some of you might be interested in tracking your calories in a very cool way. And this is where the sponsor of today's video comes in, CalAI. CalAI is an incredible app that makes calorie tracking a breeze. It's as easy as taking a picture. All you do is snap a picture of your meal, and CalAI will analyze the meal by calculating your calories and macros for you. Now, one of the things that has turned me off from other calorie trackers in the past is all the typing and searching that I was having to do just to find the right food. But with CalAI, you don't have to do any typing or searching, just seamless tracking. And from my experience, it's very accurate. But I always make sure to check the ingredients after the scan to ensure the AI caught everything from the picture. And for those of you who are a little more extreme than I am and want 100% accuracy, they also have a great barcode scanner and food database to double check. So if you're interested in dialing in your nutrition with less hassle, download the app in the App Store, Google Play Store, or simply click the link in the description and use my promo code IOHA for a 3-day free trial. Thanks to CalAI for supporting the channel, and let's get back to the video. At rest, muscle is more metabolically active than fat, burning around 6 to 7 calories per pound of muscle per day. And that's about 2 to 3 times more than fat, which is why building muscle does give your basal metabolic rate, the calories you burn at complete rest, a slight boost. And physiologically, this does make sense. Even when you're not moving, muscle maintains its structure through processes like protein synthesis, ion pumping across cell membranes, and baseline mitochondrial activity. Slow twitch fibers, which are more endurance oriented, contribute a bit more to this resting burn because they have a higher density of mitochondria and rely on aerobic metabolism, leading to greater oxygen consumption and energy use for maintenance, even at rest. But here's where the reality check comes in. That 6 to 7 calories per pound of muscle tissue isn't huge. If you gain 5 pounds of muscle, which is definitely a solid achievement, that's only an extra 30 to 35 calories burned per day at rest. To put that in perspective, this Oreo that I have now sacrificed to the goobery cadaver gloves and can sadly no longer eat is about 55 calories. So your extra burn from that 5 pounds of muscle can't even raise your resting metabolism enough to burn through this sacrificial cookie. Now I guess you could think, well, what if I looked at it over a year? It adds up to about 11,000 calories, or roughly the equivalent to the amount of calories in 3 pounds of fat. So I guess that could be considered helpful if you're very strict with tracking your caloric intake and never accidentally eat an extra Oreo. But is this the skyrocketing of metabolism that some are led to believe? Not even a little bit, and is clearly much less than the claims of a pound of muscle burns an extra 50 to 100 calories at rest. So why do we hear these overblown numbers? A big reason is the confusion between resting metabolism and what happens during and after exercise. People often mash up the calories muscle burns at rest with its activity during workouts, inflating the overall picture. And so let's break this down. When you're exercising, say lifting weights, muscle fibers contract, and that's when the real calorie burn kicks in. A single resistance training session can burn 200 to 400 calories or more, and of course, that exact number depends on intensity and duration. And it also temporarily spikes your resting metabolic rate by 4 to 7% for 16 to 48 hours afterwards, again, depending on the workout intensity. And this increase in metabolic activity after the workout is due to excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. And so you get this afterburn effect post-exercise because your muscles are metabolically active with muscle tissue repair and protein synthesis, as well as utilization of oxygen to replenish energy stores that were burned during the workout. And this afterburn effect can also get blown out of proportion, but we'll save that for another video. But here's the key. The boost is from the workout itself, not just from having more muscle sitting there. If you gain muscle, yes, you'll technically burn a few extra calories at rest, but the real metabolic magic comes from using that muscle regularly. And let's even look at it from this angle. Let's say you did gain 5 pounds of muscle. Wouldn't you now be able to lift heavier weights and therefore burn more calories during exercise? Absolutely, and this is a great benefit. With more muscle, you can handle higher loads or more reps, which ramps up the intensity of your workout. For example, if your squat goes from 135 pounds to 225 pounds, that session might burn an extra 50 to 100 calories compared to before, and over time, this can compound. Stronger muscles allow for more demanding training, leading to greater overall calorie expenditure during activity. But again, this is about active use, not passive resting burn. This whole myth likely got amplified because early studies or fitness marketing sometimes extrapolated workout data over 24 hours, 7 days a week, which included the workouts. And most accurate studies point out that 50 calories per pound of muscle, that figure has no scientific basis. It's likely a misinterpretation of total energy expenditure. So again, in reality for most people, consistent exercise and muscle use drives the bigger calorie deficits for fat loss, not the additional muscle just burning this massive amount of extra calories at rest.